Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to the Terrain Studio. I'm your host, Sean Morris. Today on the Terrain Studio, we are actually day 6 of the Kashyyyk Project, so we've made it halfway at least here, and still working on the Kashyyyk bit. I did not do any bit last night. I actually worked on cutting more foam boxes, and I'm pretty exhausted. I've actually been in the studio already for 6 hours today, and I've cut foam the entire time. I've made so many unique shaped boxes to ship out a project that I have finished. It's not even funny, but I am almost done. I have 1.5 boxes left to go, and after that it will be ready to ship out. So I'm very much looking forward to that. So hopefully you guys are doing well today. I did not write in my morning or my afternoon message in the chat, so forgive me for that. I am just checking one thing. I'm just going to get my microphone a little bit more in sync. Hopefully that is in sync with my mouth moving. Let me know if there's a problem there. But if you're just joining us, if today's your first day here, it is day 6, as I mentioned. Let's do a little bit of a recap of what we've done so far. So we finished up and worked on some huts on day 1. You can go back and find all this on the YouTube channel. Look for the Terrain Studio YouTube channel. It's all public stuff. There's about an hour per day of footage. Second day, we cut some foam substrate. We're actually going to be back to cutting foam, but it's not necessarily substrate at this point. Somewhat is, I guess, in a sense, but it's going to be an actual structural feature. So we'll be working on that as well. Day 3, we did a little bit of scratch building, just talking a little bit about concepts in terms of scaffolding that's going to go in the tree. And then we also talked a little bit about these strippings or these decorative accoutrements I'm going to add to some of the pre-existing items that we already have. Then we did day 4 with the beach layout. We did the concept there. We actually laid it in, cut it out, got the underside of where the acrylic's going to go after prepped, and then we actually carved in the slope of the beach. Day 5, that was yesterday, we did a bunch of concept around the barrier wall. You sort of can get the sense of where that concept was developed from and how it sort of morphed over the hour of sort of working through it. And that's typical process for me here in studio. And then today, day 6, the barrier wall construction. I was going to do this last night. But as I said, I got working on some other stuff and I thought, hey, you know what? You saw it yesterday and you tuned in yesterday. Why don't you see the barrier wall construction today? We'll see what we can get through. So I got a little bit of a different setup here in the studio. So let's have a look. There you go. So I gave you an overhead shot. I just moved my tools out of the way, so I just have those at hand reach. I slid the table back, and we're going to be basically cutting out those white pieces out of the foam. Got the foam there in the background, and then in the pick and pick there, we have the Proxon cutter. We'll probably use that a little bit to assist us with our curvature as we cut through and try to get it roughly into the round shape. We'll probably have to do some sanding to manipulate that, but I'm not sure how far we'll get in terms of the sanding. If we can get the crude shapes cut and get all the layers cut in, I think that'll be pretty good for an hour's bit of work. This will just be me back in studio. So any questions that you have, the ground rules here for the Terrain Studio are ask as many questions as you want, distract as much as possible, and then you can kind of keep me busy and chatting. I'll give you a close-up there. That'll be kind of where we're working. We'll move the cutter out of the way, and we'll kind of work on the foam in that space. So I'll put it up and down off the ground there, and then we have this overhead shot there, just so you guys can get a general concept of what we're working on and the area, and basically how much of area that is consuming for that. I did allude to this in the drop screen, but if you guys are at all interested, I decided I'm really trying to pump up that Patreon. Not so much because I want the fundage, although that's fantastic because it generally just pays the streaming fees and the monthly hosting fees, which is fantastic for me. So then I can do these and they don't actually cost me, because it seems strange to do all this and never get any benefit out of it, although I do generally get a benefit in terms of I enjoy doing this. That being said, what I'm going to do this month for Patreon is I have 3 tiers. It's a $2, a $5, and a $15. The $15 tier has an added perk where I actually connect with would-be patrons about their projects, troubleshoot, talk about products, get insight. We kind of banter back and forth. I really like doing that. I do have a few people at that tier, although I would like to start making some more connections, because I'm really trying to root myself into the community in terms of being exceptionally helpful. And of course, we only have finite time, but I like to spread that around. So what I'm going to do this month for folks, and this exists for my previous patrons as well, so everyone gets this perk. I'm gonna, and not everyone will take advantage, but I'm going to extend it that if you are at the $5 tier this month and this month only, so basically for the balance, maybe I'll make it fair. I'll extend it for the rest of April and into May. I'm going to give everyone a 1 hour session, so everyone's going to be able to connect. And we'll have that sort of talk through. So if you are at the $5 tier or would be as a future patron, you'll get access to that for the 1 month extension without paying that $15 fee. And my $15 folks, I'll take care of them as I always do. So just a little bonus. I really would like to start building that up. I'd like to kind of help people out with their concepts, and I'd love to be inspirational to folks if you're kind of at that hurdle or stuck or have product questions. And oftentimes I can't get to all the emails. It's much easier to sort of connect one-on-one, as weird as that is to say. This is just so much more convenient for me than firing off emails. I do that all day long at work. It's the last thing I want to do when I get home. But so if you are inclined, you can go join up, sign up at the Patreon at the Terrain Studio, $5 tier. You don't need to put any special things. I'll know who is in there. Everyone gets it, and then you'll get a connect if you so choose. You can bank it up and you can use it at a different time if it's not convenient. But I do appreciate any support we can get there. All right, without further ado, let's slide over to the actual table. Maybe what I'll do is I'll go to this one and we'll work from there. All right, let me just jump over here so you guys can pick me up on mic number 2. Hopefully that's going to work for you. Let me just switch that there, so we got a little bit more of a surround effect. That way, if I walk around the table on this side, in theory, you should be able to hear me. So, obligatory Tim Hortons cup in the shot as well, being Canadian and also not sponsors, but welcome to if they'd like. So what we're going to do today is we're going to effectively transplant this big template that we made here, and we're going to put that onto our foam cutout and cut that up. And you can see here we got to kind of do a, sorry, you can't really see. Let me turn here. We got to do a 1 inch, a 1.5 inch, and a 2.5 inch rise. And that's going to kind of create our barrier. I got looking last night. I went back down the rabbit hole of concepts for Kashyyyk, and I found some more pictures of the retaining wall. And it really looks like it's fairly bland. And I think in terms of like the concept, there is no real Kashyyyk-esque retaining wall, but I think that various artists have used it conceptually to kind of build in, and I think it's sort of creating that sort of subterranean slash sort of entrenched beachfront. And so I'm going to sort of use the maybe the trenches of World War I as a little bit of inspiration, as well as some of the concepts that I found, and sort of build that wall in. So that's the focus today. So if you want to know all about the Proxon cutter, it's my favorite tool. You guys can ask me all about it at some point if you're interested in purchasing one. Although I have no affiliate links for it, I will just tell you that it's straight up well spent money. And so really that's the only endorsement I can give you, but it's the best endorsement. That is actually my second one, and not because they are not reliable, but it's a workhorse. Like I use that 6 hours today already, basically running constantly. And the first one lasted me about 5 years before I had to replace it. So maybe even a bit longer than that, to be perfectly honest. So it's fantastic tool, highly recommended. If you are checking this out and you're in chat, please let me know who you are and where you're from. I always like to go back and check that out. And of course, your questions are also welcome in that. Okay, so we talked about this yesterday a little bit about working with the foam sheets and making sure that they're flexed out. This one has a little bit of flex, not bad. Have another one here as well. Feel like this one's got more, so I'm going to go with the other one first, just because I want to make sure I get this first piece right. And I talked yesterday about how you can cut this in sections. I decided that with the curvature, as opposed to having to try to cut the curve twice, which I can do, I'm going to just try to cut it once. And we're gonna go ahead and I'm gonna leave myself a little bit proud on that side. And just so that when I cut that, I have a little bit of room to work, and if I don't get it quite right, I have a bit of area to sand. And then I'm gonna press all that down. That looks pretty good, and we're gonna make that work. Okay. So just checking this one more time, making sure everything is what I want it to be, and of course we can finagle it a little bit, sand, trim, all that good stuff, but that's going to be good because we're not quite, you know what, I might as well cut those two little tabs in there too. It'll just allow me to get it a little bit more form-fitting to the tree. I didn't do this yesterday, so let me just put those in. I just use my fingernails, press it in, cut a little bit of a template in, and cut this out. So let me just grab this. And that'll give us a spot to put the foam in there. Go ahead and tape that into place. Try not to tape the foliage in. There we go. And I got one more to do. Let's make sure we're flushed up on this side. Alright, I'm just going to just tack this so that it doesn't slide on me. I need a bit more paper. We're going to go ahead and throw this into here. I'm pretty sure on pickup duty, so I'm going to have to probably stay true to time again today. But if I can extend it at all, I will. But I can make no promises about that. Okay, I'm just going to trim this guy a bit more, and then run that extension out this way. Alright, so just tidying up this template just a little bit more. Might as well get it as, like I said, as close as we can, and then we're using less sculpt mold later to try to finagle this and get it all positioned in there. So, all right. Okay, so there we go. So now we have the template. We got all the little dipsy doodles into the bottom of the tree there. We got our excess material here. Still probably use that for something. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to take this, and you got to be, we have the writing on it, so it's nice and clear, but just make sure you don't go flipping and flopping your template over. So a lot of times what happens is when you go to cut something, it's like, okay, I'm going to cut it this upside down, I'm going to flip it this way. I'm basically going to cut this, and then we're going to slide it right over and in place. And so I'm going to cut it the upright way. Now, like I said, I'm going to leave myself a little bit of room on this side just so I can do some sanding later. I'm going to bring this right up to the edge. I don't care about this edge because this edge is the board edge, so we can cover that over with whatever, plastic card or wood, what have you. So now I'm really going to work hard on getting my template in place for one
last measurement, and we're going to draw it out. So I'm just going to put a couple tack points here. Stretch out my template, make sure it's stretched. We'll remove the tacks when we get there. And we need to draw the line. It doesn't look like much of anything, but it'll be something when we're done. Okay. So now what we're going to do is we're going to just pencil line this in. Obviously, we're going to want to, you know what, I might actually Sharpie this in because you guys won't be able to see pencil lines at all. And so when I do this, what I try to do is I don't put the Sharpie fully onto the foam. I actually try to go a little bit on the paper as well, just because I'm not trying to create an overly thick line. And if I get down in the way here, my head will be a little bit in the way, but hopefully you guys can. And so I'm just going half on the paper and then half on the foam, and I'll show you kind of what that looks like. It just makes the Sharpie line so much thinner when I go to cut it. So, and again, this is just rough. We're roughing everything in. We have room to play. We're not trying to fit this piece. In a way, we're trying to fit it into the tree, but we can even sand that. So it's not like we're trying to fit this piece in between like two others or anything like that. Like we have room to work. Just use your fingers and press down your template as you go, because you want to make sure that you have it as true to your template as possible, and then also make sure you flex that foam down. Just gonna use my fingers to sort of splay that out. Just gonna move my tack points now to this side. I've cut so much foam today, it's not even funny. Actually, in the last 3 days, I've cut about 13 hours, I think I've logged so far in making boxes for this shipping project. Or for shipping a project, I should say. But it's important that it rides alive, because a few months' work I don't want ruined by, you know, somebody having a bad day at the post office. No offense to postal carriers or delivery folks. I'm not suggesting that that's what you would do. Just saying I like to try not to take that risk. I like to plan for it as best I can anyway. After all, I'm shipping foam items, and so they're naturally fragile. So you guys watching thought this was going to be just like a quick, easy, like just like when you were a kid and you just trace something and then you draw it. It's not quite that simple. I wish it was. It'd be quicker, but hopefully you guys are able to. Got a few people hanging out. Let me know who you are, where you're from. Hopefully you guys are able to see this. Please ask any questions that you want. You're not distracting me at all from working. In fact, it entertains me. So please ask. I heard a tick. Hey Bernard. Awesome. Hey Bernard, that's it's good that you're on there. I got your email. I was just prattling on earlier about how I hate responding to emails. Not that I want you to not send them to me, but yeah, let's connect on those pieces. And I'm glad that you liked the Scarif video, so that's cool. And thanks for coming to hang out. So, and Bernard, I did a little bonus Patreon content there as well. So there's a little bit of a bonus the months for every sub level 5 and above. So if you miss that, make sure you catch that little perk. And I appreciate the comments on the previous YouTube videos as well. Thank you. The ones posted earlier today. Yeah, if you guys are just joining as day one, this is day one for you, then you guys can certainly go back and check out some of the previous stuff. The tree build and the sort of the texturing, that's all done in video form as well. So you guys can find that. That is on the Patreon right now. It's not released to public, but that's there. That'll probably come out in the future, probably upon finish of this, down the road. All right, let's get going here on the last side. My apologies if that is like obnoxiously loud for you guys. Yeah, so Bernard, just at the start of the video, if you can just see it off, there we go, off camera, I have the Proxxon cutter. So it depends on what I'm doing. I do like to freeform a lot of cuts, so I will, like, if it's just mostly straight cuts, I'll generally ruler and knife it. If it's like a redundant number of cuts, like it's, or I need a specific thickness, or I'm trying to make a part to fit in between two others, I'll typically use the Proxxon just because I can get a replicated precision. But if it's just like one and done cuts, knife and ruler is typically what I'm going to use. For this one, what I'm probably going to do, just because the curvature is a little bit hard to replicate with the knife, I'll probably just run this through the cutter as close as I can, and then we'll use sanding and hand manipulation to get it to fit. One thing we want to do when we cut this is I'd rather leave a little bit on the outside and sand it down, as opposed to cutting too much inside the template. The reason being is that we want to maintain that spacing that we had for the hut. So I got room on the outside to trim and sand, but I don't want to lose too much on the inside, just because we only have so much real estate to work with, and we've sort of planned that out already. And of course we can cut basically line and out. This is fairly easy to follow because I got a nice, well, if the Sharpie wants to cooperate, it can sometimes follow the contour. Alright, I got a little tack point here, I'm just going to move. All right, just about done. Right. Do you have a handheld foam hot wire cutter, or like a table, like a table cutter? I really don't like. I have some of the hand tools. Like I have the Hot Wire Foam Factory ones I bought. Like I got a 9-inch knife, and I have a couple of the sort of shavers. I did use a lot of that to shave and cut the tree, and so that actually worked when I was like trying to do like almost like I liken this tree both in color and sort of formation to like donair meat. Or donair meat, however people pronounce it. I say donair, but and then like kind of like just shaving off chunks, and because it was like sort of striated in shape, it actually it looked like the meat stacked up there. So whenever I think about shaving with the hot wire foam cutter, I think about this tree, and I think about shaving a slab of donair meat. But I do love the cutter. I love the table version. All right, I'm just gonna peel that up. And don't throw out the template, don't destroy the template, because we're gonna need that for the subsequent layers. So we're gonna set that aside. So here's what we're gonna do. So as I said before, one shot at this if you're gonna go this big, right? I could have bisected that, and then I probably could have got like 2 out of here. If I messed up on this one, I probably could have done that, manipulated that to get 2 of these. This is a one and done. So if I don't like this one, I move into the second sheet. Obviously, I can still use the inside and the outside, but in terms of like cutting this piece, it's a one-off. It's a one-off piece. So, also conceptually, if you look over here, like this is where we're gonna cut. This was kind of the framed out concept, and you kind of see that, we took sort of these crude like rudimentary lines, and then what we did is we manipulated them into an actual structural shape. So something that's going to look a little bit more visually appealing on here as opposed to these, but just wanted to point out that we are taking the same concept and we're now going to like incorporate it into our design, and that's quite important. So handheld, but I like being able to get interesting curves. Yeah, for sure. You can definitely do that. Now the one downside of the Proxxon cutter that you're going to see here is going to be size, and so I never actually measured this out, and this might be quite interesting. So set the jigs aside. These are the shifting lands jigs. I have a whole slew of them there. Also fantastic attachments for this Proxxon cutter. Okay, so one of the limiting factors of this is the arm. You only have so much clearance. I think it's about maybe 12 inches, 13 inches or so. If I had a ruler, which I do, I can show you that. So it's, how close was I? About 13 and a half inches maybe clearance. And so when we're running this through, we're gonna basically be able to get so far. And do we have the depth to get there? We effectively have the depth to get to this section, but we don't have the depth to get all the way through. So I'm just trying to think here. If I manipulate that in, we might be able to do this. Just trying to visualize the cut here. This is going to be the awkward one. We're not going to be able to penetrate enough this way. So what we're going to have to do, just seeing which way would be best to start. If we cut that off, do this, and again, this is something that I do a lot of, so let me just work my way through the process, just so hopefully it's not too boring to you. I'm just visualizing the cuts, and so that I can just truthfully understand if I'm going to be able to that's just going to be the only awkward one there. So I may or may not be able to get through there. If I can't get through there, what we'll do is we'll just take a quick exit strategy out there and then come back in from the other side. So, okay, should be able to do that. All right. Good. Check there. I need to just grab my square and just make sure that I have nice perpendicular measurement on the wire. Looks good. Okay. Let's see what we can do. Live too, risky, super risky. Alright, so we're just going to try to manipulate this through. We got about a 1 inch, so we'll probably put it to about, I'd say, maybe about a 3.5. We'll try there, see how we do. Let me just see here, Bernard. I'm just not sure if I'm getting the whole comment there. I practice cut with paper out and then see how the wire will run. Yeah, that makes sense. You can do scrap or whatever you want. It's truthfully up to you. Sorry, I have to keep cutting back and forth. I'm undecided in which hand I want to use to do this. So, all right. So forgive me if I'm a little bit silent when I'm doing this, just so that I can concentrate on the cut, and we'll see how it goes. This 1 inch is a little sticky. And we're of course going to sand this because it won't be a perfect. All right, so we can start to see it, and we can clean that up. Obviously, you can just see the small undulations there. They're pretty minuscule, but you can see that we more or less have the correct shape. I think it's quite rounded. Let's go back in. This piece hanging down here is a little bit of excess weight on the cutter, which is a little bit unfortunate. Just going to run this back out. Just wanted to come in this way, it'd be a little bit easier for me. What we're just going to do is run this straight out. All right, here we go. I'm just going to go back out the same way I came in, just not to waste too much, but I'm just going to go just on the outside of my line. Okay, so got a little nick there that on the exit. I just want to clean that piece up just a little bit. I'm just gonna saw that in. Put that back there. All right, so we can clean that up on a sand. Let's go ahead and set all this stuff aside. There we go. And then go check our rough manipulations. Right, so as suspected, we got a little bit of work in the tree just because we measured the bottom and we have the striations that come up from the top. So we do need to have a little bit. I'm just gonna shove this in so I can get some indentations. It's pretty good there. And we'll just figure out roughly what it is we need to manipulate there. So I think if we cut this back just a little bit, we're going to hand manipulate this with our knife. I'm just going to cut a little bit of a bevel. That's a lot better there. And then we have this plant that's causing us a little bit of a trouble. I'm just gonna, these are hot glued in, so I'm just gonna break a little bit of those off. So I think that turned out okay. I'm not sure if you guys can pick that up on camera or not. Yeah, I think you can. So I'm just looking at this. This is basically going to sit out there. Getting a little bit of rub right along this bottom portion here. So I'm just going to bevel out that. Get a little bit of rub here. And these are things that wouldn't account for the template because the template was two-dimensional and laid along the ground, and so now we have to figure out the three-dimensional limitations. I'm just gonna keep manipulating this until I no longer have to like flex it into place. That's all I'm doing right now is I'm just flexing it along the tree so I can figure out where it fits in. Getting better, you can see less and less requirement to flex. There's just a little bit, I think maybe right there still. It's not a very sharp knife, but it's doing the trick. Okay, I think that'll do. That'll do it right there. So if we go back to our template for a second, just sort of laying that along, you can see that we were accurate to that, right? So ignore the blue lines at this point. So now we're accurate to that, that's pressed in. It's looking good there. I'm gonna swap over my camera for a second. Swap over there, there we go. Just got to
Sorry, I just have to just real quick response. The joys of working even when you're on break. Here we go. Okay, question. How tall is the tree? That's a good question. Let me grab the tape measure and I'll accurately prove it. As I'm walking around the room here. All right, so from, let's go from water height to tip of the hut top is 36.5 inches. 36.5 to the top. So 3-foot tree. I think that's what we've maintained this entire time. 3 feet was the tale that we were telling. So it's quite large, but not even close to relative scale. So, okay, so now we have this cut in place. I just wanted to grab my sanding block here. Without making a ginormous mess, I just wanted to show you a little bit, and maybe I'll swap back cameras here for a second. There we go. So if you look at the where the cutter goes through, these are just where like I either took a pause, took a readjustment, and so from the top you really can't see too much of that, but you can definitely pick out those small, and they're very subtle, but because they're within this nice clean foam, they're very evident. A little bit on the back side here as well, and then you can sort of hit the nice runs. It's a lot easier to do a straight cut. It's hard to follow a contour. It's easier if you use a contour tool, like if you're doing a circle. I have some of those cutters, but these obviously don't lend well to that. So what I want to show you is how you can take that out. So if you look at this, for example, you can sort of see the black line here, and then you can see some of the undulations around. So really quick and easy. This is going to be a little bit louder for you guys. All right, so that is how quick and easy you can sand those out. Those little scuff marks or any little chipping that you get, that's a great foam putty cleanup. Just put some foam putty over, and then you just re-sand that. That happens sometimes if your sandpaper catches, get some impurities in the foam, you get hung up on the edge, you put a little bit too much pressure, sometimes that'll happen. So what I'll do is I'll just run the sandpaper through and take out all that and just get it to sort of a round, uniform look. I'm probably going to have to sand some places a little bit more aggressive than others. I'm not going to do too much sanding on this particular stream here today because one, I don't like to sand a lot in this section because there's so much photo equipment, but we'll take care of that. But I just wanted to show you how quick and easy it is to do the cleanup. So we got about 15 minutes or so more. So why don't we try and just get another section at least started here. So as I said, we're going to step up that 1 inch. We get that 1 inch rise from here, and now we have this sort of contour on the beach. So we got this nice retaining wall. Really truncates that beach. But now what we want to do is we want to bump up that next level. So we got to do the same cut on another 1 inch piece and then another 1/2 inch piece to get that rise up there. So we're going to have to get 2 pieces of foam. Now there's no nice way of doing this in terms of marking it out for the template, although what I will say is we can effectively cut them on the Proxon cutter together. So what we'll do is we'll laminate them together, we'll tape them together, and then we'll run them through, and we'll just remove that tape as we get to those sections. So now what we're going to do is
we're going to cut this piece on here. Now, for this, because we're happy with how this ended up, we're fine with the sand job. It's going to be fine. You just have to be a little bit careful when you do your, where's that piece that I was sanding, that here. When you're sanding, you want to make sure that you maintain that that perpendicular edge. So make sure you're not trying to like edge sand it too much. We're going to go ahead and laminate a piece of plastic card over this whole thing anyway. So we're only trying to get close to straight because what we're going to do is, and this is your surface, we're going to take a piece of plastic card and we're actually going to laminate it over the edge, and that's going to be our retaining wall. And you can see here that basically what's going to happen is we're going to get a perfectly round edge. The only reason that we're going to sand it and have those flush points is because we don't want to have any divots. We don't want the plastic card to flex in, and we also want to make sure that we have as much surface level or contact area to get this down as possible. So I'm not overly concerned with the sanding. Instead of sanding, would filler putty be acceptable? Reason is because you can color it, and then yeah, I guess maybe I didn't see your question first, Bernard, but maybe what I just shared with you makes that redundant in the sense that like I'm doing something completely different, but what you're talking about would be perfectly fine. I just don't need to fill this over. If I was gonna, like you said, add moss effects and directly onto this, possibly, I can still do the same thing. I just like the cleaner surface of the plastic card to work from that. So that's going to be my approach there. What we are going to now do with this template is we are going to cut it apart because we only need part of it. So I'm going to take my ruler and figure out roughly the line that we have here. I'm going to go ahead and follow that, and go to there, and then we'll there, get rid of that. That's going to transpose onto here, and it's going to look something like that. So, same process as before. It'll be smoother and flatter for the intended purposes that I have. If you wanted your wall to be like more like earthy or much more of a natural cut into the side, like you'd say you're doing like a steep or something like that, you could certainly just leave it. In fact, I would probably rough it up and tool mark it and all those pock marks. I wouldn't cover them over at all. That would actually probably lend to the overall look. So yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. So what we're going to do is see, oh, look how inconvenient that is. I was just going to see if we could squeeze this out of this piece, but unfortunately we are not going to be able to. It doesn't matter. It's not like this is not usable. It's just we're going to go into our other fresh piece, which got a bit more of a flex to it, but we talked about that before because I had fully intended that I was going to likely have to use this piece. All right, so we'll go ahead and go from here. Just gonna find where that cleanest edge is, ding-free edge. Probably go from there, and we'll pop this back down along the edge. I'm gonna just peel this tape up so I can reapply it. Doing for time. Right, pretty close. We should be able to at least get this marked off and probably cut out. So again, we're not changing this, even though we know we're going to have to do some nicking and changing around the tree. We're not going to do any of those changes here now. You can see the template. It's a good thing. See how it's kind of like bowed here a little bit? I need to flex it out a bit more. Needs to lay a bit flatter. Which means this is probably just needs to shifts down. That'll probably do the trick. All right. So back to the proverbial drawing board here. All right, I'm just going to catch up those comments here for a second. I see that there's some contextual statements here. Reading the last comment, I don't think puts the whole comment into perspective. So let me just get this part done, and then I will address the question. All right, okay, so what did you ask me, Bernard? I think it would be a project decision, putty for me, yep. To use it as concrete. Base like you mentioned, all right, yes. Concrete looking base, that should be the correct word. Yeah, I think, so what I'm going to do for this is, I should go back and, I will texturize this plastic card, and so I haven't texturized the plastic card on the hut or anything like that, but because it's going to be mixed into the earth, what I'm actually going to probably do is, it's too bad I packed the project over there, but I do this sort of like stucco-like texture, and I use a really fine ground paste, and it's effectively the earth paste that I use. And what you do is you apply it, and you just stipple it on with your brush, and if you keep stippling it, keep manipulating as it sets up, you can really put a nice fine texture into it. And what I use is a black sponge, similar to like what you would buy at a hardware store, or even what miniatures come in, that sort of like closed cell sponge, and I just keep stippling, and it puts a nice surface texture. So my intent was to kind of give it this sort of like stucco-like finish, but a really, really fine stucco finish. So that's something almost like caked earth, as opposed to like a stucco or a concrete. So that's my intent anyway with that. All right, I just have to put that little line in there, little line in there. I see that the tape rather quickly. Super cool. So set that aside in case we need that template again. Set this aside, tape aside. Are we going to be able to squeeze that out of there? That piece might not be large enough either. I have more I just brought out of this piece, but I thought it might be. Oh, it wants to be, but I just don't know if the edge is flush enough. It's a little bit shy in that corner, so I would dare say I'll probably use another piece. What we're going to do first, though, is we're going to T-square this across to save that. Do that, and we're going to grab a better blade. How many blades are we left? Oh, burning through them. A lot of foam cut in the last couple days, so as I said, it's been blade burning time. Right. So we're just going to run this across for a couple reasons. One, because we want a smaller piece to work on the foam cutter, specifically because it's got some flex to it. So the smaller we make it, the less flex we're going to have to deal with. And then we're also going to have a much cleaner cut, and then we have a shorter exit strategy with the foam cutter to get out. So this blade will not go all the way through a 1 inch, but that's okay. Might be loud for a second. There we go. One of my favorite sounds in the world. Yeah, no, that's a good point, Bernard. I was actually contemplating today, just sort of like working my way through my next rant about not rant, but antidote about terrain making, and I have Mel's book here, The Terrain Essentials, and I'm going to do a bit of a review on Patreon for it. But I was just thinking, like, you know, how. You know, some people may think it's a little bit ironic, like why would, like, it was sent to me, but I'm just saying, like, why would a person, some people say, why would a person need a terrain book if you already consider yourself a terrain maker? And I'm just a maker, that's it. But the thing is, your point exactly is that the moment you stop being able to learn or acquire or rethink about the methods that you're using is really the moment that you kind of stop progressing. And when you stop progressing, at least in my opinion, then it sort of loses a little bit of luster. You lose a little bit of the attraction to what it is that you're doing. I never want to replicate the same thing over and over because I feel that's a way to get stagnant. So your point about, like, hey, I might do this differently, and I certainly probably do things different than Mel or you or anybody else, but that doesn't mean that the method is incorrect or that I can't acquire some skill or tool from that, or even a small aspect of it. So Noah coming in with the average, appreciate that, thank you. And then Nick following up that with the average, yep. I appreciate that. Completely average. There's nothing more to see here other than average work. Let me grab, or did I? Oh, I did. Before I do this, I guess, ahead of myself, let me cut this other piece of 1/2 inch foam to the size that I need. If anyone's watching this and thinking, geez, this guy has a terrain shop and he has like no table space, I have 6 tables right over there, 3 of which are set up always for working, and then 3 of which form the L-shaped workbench, and then I have 1 over here, and so I have 6 tables there and 1 here, and this is the space that I choose to work. So not maybe the smartest in terms of space management. So this is just happens to be where all the filming stuff is. So, and it's not possible to move. So, well, easily I should say. So if you are later watching this thinking, Jesus, this guy should get some more workspace, I have it, just not using it effectively. Okay, so let's square this up real quick. All right. knife is here. And again, I just crudely cut that roughly to the same size as the other one. Reason being is I want to be able to tape the edges together. So I have a way to sort of keep it together. Set that aside. Every tool that you guys see me use, the only tools that I use are the ones that I use like repetitively. So if I could tell you like things to buy if you're working with foam, 4-foot T-square, 2-foot ruler, multiple rulers because you lose them or forget where you put them down, knives, lots of them. Tape measures, yeah, but that's mostly just used to mark off shipping boxes. I rarely use the tape measure on anything just because I use so many rulers. But today I was using a tape measure because I needed to measure a box. And this is a prime example right there. You guys can see the flex that's in that. Now, if I were to take the piece of half-inch foam, and I'll put those two together, you can see that's not where the bow is. But if I take this piece of 1-inch foam with the half-inch foam, I'm going to put it on this side. You can see here that it's actually on the ends. And so if I flip this over and then put it on this side, you can see where the actual bow is. So it's this 1-inch foam that has the most sort of flex to it. So just going to account for that in the cutting process, and that'll be another great reason to actually laminate these two pieces of foam together and then tape them together, because that'll just allow us to keep the flex to a minimum. Okay, bonus coverage today. All right, here we go. What do we got? Some questions here. I thought you were using the Friday Night Fight table. Yes, I am. Sorry, Noah, this is the Friday Night Fight table that I am using as a work table. So I'm just filming in this location as opposed to moving it over. So Bernard says, for other people watching later, this video is one of the reasons I support the TheTerrainStudio with the top pledge. Fair enough. You get private time. Yes. And so Bernard, I was saying about Patreon pledge and perks. I have decided this month, just in the interest of getting more people connected, more people working on this, and it'll just be a one-time, one hour session only, but I'm actually going to extend that perk to all the $5 folks, new and old, and I will put in the extra time just to make those initial connections with people, because my real motivation is getting people started on their terrain. I don't, it's not necessarily, I'm not necessarily concerned that you build what I'm building or follow along with me, but just having those connects with people is super important. So I appreciate the endorsement, though. All right, so let's just continue getting the tape on. So this tape right here, what I'm effectively doing is I'm just getting these two pieces without having to like permanently adhere them. And you may say, hey, why don't you just laminate them together now and then cut through? So very good point in terms of, I'm sort of countering my own point here. There's two reasons that you may not want to do that. One, if you laminate these two pieces together and make a mistake, you have two pieces that you are then going to have to replace. And so you may only need to replace one. Also, because I'm using contact cement to adhere these together, so that low odor contact cement, when you put that on, it's going to give you a really strong bond. However, when it's dry, I'm going to then cut into it, or would have to then cut into it, and I would actually remove the outside edge. Not to say that the inside is not going to be dry, because you let that stuff set up and get tacky. However, when you run your blade through on the Proxon, it's going to constantly sort of jitter and catch through the glue as it goes, as it hits those like hard and soft pockets, or where the glue is a bit more dense or a little bit lighter than others. So it's going to jitter through. You're likely going to break a lot more strands when you do that. And I would say, like, in the life of that Proxxon cutter, the other one I had 5 years, I never even used the spool that it came with. So you don't break that much. But what's going to happen is, if every time you break that, you're going to have to pull your string back out, restring it, and then go back in. And so you're going to have those divots where the blade's going to start again, and that's not going to give you that nice curvature. So this right here is just a cheap and easy way of doing both together, and not have to worry about any of those other pieces that I told you. And that's sort of a lesson that I've learned around, like, I've laminated this together. Now I'm going to cut through it. Oh, it didn't work. Oh, I broke my blade. Oh, like, so when I say all that stuff, I mean, I just learned the hard way on that. And so I have the choice right now. I can either laminate this together and cut it at once, or do it like this. And this is the method that I'm choosing for the reasons that I've just stated. Just flexing that out. Also, anywhere there's a particular heavy flex, I'm also just putting the tape on an angle, just putting it like this, straight up and down. If you don't get it super tight, all it's going to do is just pull back across. But if you put the tape like this on an angle, you have a tendency to actually, one, get it to better adhere, and then two, it has less room to pull. There's less slack in the angle application, just in case you're curious about that. So. Not everywhere do you need that. I'm just checking as I go along, and anywhere it's like particularly flexy, I'm just doing that. Otherwise, you can just do a straight up and down application. It's fine. We'll just do a little bit of bonus coverage because I might as well finish off this piece so we have some continuity from yesterday's work. So there we go. We have that set in place. Looks pretty good. It's nice and flush. There might just be a hair. I don't know if it's just maybe where I had it positioned, or it could just be I need a little bit of sanding. But I'll finagle that after when I sand everything. Then it's probably going to suck it in anyway. So all right. So let's set this aside, this aside, this aside, this, and that. And this, and I think we're ready to try that cut again. Gonna turn it just up a little bit, and the reason you turn up the heat is well, one, if you're cold, and then two, just the thicker the foam, the more heat it's worth having to go through that. So, and you can see that I didn't tape this back edge, but it's actually nice and clean. There's no flex there, and there's just a little teeny bit in the middle, but the tape that I applied, I'm actually going to be able to leave that down the whole way around, and so that's quite nice. I'll just have that adhesion. Obviously, I'll be sort of breaking those contact points as I cut through, but that's perfectly fine. And don't use your foam cutter through tape. Just another thing that you just definitely don't need to do. All right, here we go. So minimal talking as I concentrate on this. Try not to make a fool of myself. Live on. Go too fast, sometimes the blade gets a little bit deflection, so you kind of have to stop and go back a little bit just to make sure that it catches up. You don't want to go too fast. Be cognizant, I feel myself getting close to the support arm. Hopefully I have enough room to clear it. Oops, that was a little bit of a jitter. We'll clean that up, there we go. Yeah, I'm stuck on the arm, so. Let's break that off. Alright, I'm just going to come back in this way. And that'll free up this big chunk of foam. I'm just going to come in and clean that cut up just a little bit. There we go. Alright, that's into the tree, so that'll be okay. We can take care of that. I'm just going to tighten this up a little bit. So again, just stuck on the arm, so I have to keep clearing that out. Get these long runs. Go. Right, so you can see there, now that the piece is no longer together, let's read it here, there we go. So again, pretty good, pretty smooth cuts on there. Inside, that was just where it got stuck on the thing, so you can see there's a little bit. We'll just sand through that. That's right against the tree anyway, so you probably won't even see any of that. So, and then again, pretty good on those end arounds there. So now let's translate this over to the table. Let me just move the cutter so it's a little bit out of the way. There we go. We'll kind of end off here pretty soon. You guys always show up right at the end of the video, so we'll my apologies. Go back and watch it, and we'll do it all again tomorrow. I know that the timing's a little bit different, but it's just super convenient for me to get the content out, and it's a nice way to sort of vlog my work. But okay, so there we have that, and then this is going to then be pressed in there. Obviously, the foliage that's here, I'm gonna just pull that out of the side of the tree. I know it's going to leave a little bit of a hole, but that's fine because it's then going to be covered back over subsequently. There we go. So that goes there, and then this is going to go there, and then that's going to go there. And what we'll do is we'll actually laminate all this together before we ever adhere it to the tree, to the base, because I want it laminated together, and I'll sand it all at once. So that's quite important that I sand it. And in fact, I'll probably laminate these two together, sand that, at least this inside portion, then laminate the three together, then get this contour, because you can see there's a little bit of difference there, not much, but just enough that we'll sand that off. And then on the back side looks really good, running into the tree, a little bit of foliage here. That's probably going to be fine. We can leave that one. And then we'll end up probably putting a little bit of a foam, I'd say a foam filler into here. So we'll probably just jump in some chunks of foam and then celluclay over that, because we have this sort of like weird gap and transition here with the tree. So we'll just celluclay that over. We'll set it up like kind of like maybe some rocky outcrops or what have you, and then we'll cover it over with foliage just to get that transition. This is obviously added after the tree, so that's just something that we're naturally going to have to work with. If I turn this around to this side here, just move that shim out of the way. There we go. If we move it around to the back side here, get it leveled up on the, it's a high-sided on the table, but you can see here on the back what we have to contend with now. It's this this slope, right? So we talked about how we're going to slope or transition that down, and I think one of our plans was to take a 1-inch piece of foam, and so what we'll do is we'll sand this and we'll re-template that. It's not going to need to be super adherent, like it's not going to have to follow this contour exactly, because this is going to have a sort of a natural slope, a gradient with the celluclay or the Sculptamal, whatever we end up using. And so that is just going to fill that gap and transition right down. And then we'll have probably that 1 inch transition sort of run in and around here, and then we'll gradually slope that down through and then back into that portion there. So that's looking pretty good. Let me just rotate this back around to the front for a second. There we go. Grab these hut bases so you guys can now start to, we talked about, you know, the visualization and constantly replacing things so that we can kind of get those visuals. Well, now we no longer have to sort of like hold things in place. We now have the physical substrate, and we'll just put our picnic dish there, our cone, which is going to run right up into that tree, and we said we're going to have that nice attachment point, so we'll end up creeping the vines and just make those actually adhere straight together. So I really like that idea. And then we have our other one that's now going to set here, and we talked about having that, not sure if you guys caught that or not, but we talked about having that bridge sort of, let me grab a small piece of foam. We talked about having that bridge between the hut upper entrance, or that entrance that exists. And so let me just see if you guys can see that in, there we go. So that ends up working perfectly. We'll have that walkway run off there. We'll put a little entrance into the top of the hut, and now we have it running across there perfectly. We got nice room on this backside, you know, a little bit of playable space. We got unit deployment areas, and so nothing's overly cluttered in the sense that you still have room to deploy your units. And now we have that beach to hut to hut to platform look going on, and then the stepping stones are obviously going to go on the other side. So it's not looking like, looking like anything too exciting or too much right now. But the more and more you can visualize, I guess each day, you're going to start to see what we're going to put in. And so what started off as a relatively bland sort of like sloped beach now has these like wall structures in here, now has this like sort of conducive way of moving around on the table. If you look here, let me see if I can rotate there. If you look in there, we have this nice sort of like entranceway or alleyway, so we can put that sort of a staircase or whatever, what have you, to go from here to here. That way they can actually move around there with some conducive fashion. We don't necessarily need to have one over here. If we want to, we can, but that's shorter than the height of a model, so you could just take a difficult move and move up there. So hopefully you guys are enjoying at least the process of working through it. If not, and you don't enjoy any of the ramblings, well, you can enjoy the visuals and hopefully take away something from it. So I'm excited to keep working away on it. We'll get it done in time for hopefully all the releases of the Fluttercrafts and the snail tanks and all those fun things, so we can have all that on here. The Wookiees are on standby. They're over there in the case, so we got a bunch of them ready to go and ready to populate the table. So, all right, well, there you go, folks. A little bit of bonus coverage to make up for the previous one. I'm going to jump back to the computer, and then I'll entertain any questions if there are any. And then if not, I will let you folks enjoy the rest of your evening, and I'll catch you guys all tomorrow. But let's just jump back to the table first and just have a little chat. Here we go. Okay. Let me grab my phone. Perfect. All right, Bernard, I appreciate that. He says the discourse is well appreciated. I appreciate you guys hanging out with me as well. So I know there's a few people hanging out, so if you got any final questions, or if you want to know what's up tomorrow, depending on where I get and what I get done, I will likely be
working on that backside slope. So just getting that other template cut in. I'll probably work on getting the cleaning up the connection points around the tree. So we'll get a little bit of stuff in there as well, and just sort of transition that. And then I'll have the sanding done ahead of time because I'm not going to do that on stream. But then maybe what I'll do is I'll start looking at least doing the initial layer of the plastic card, and we'll get that covered over, and I'll show you kind of how to work with that. Work on the foam. It's quite easy. Contact cement works fantastic. We'll cut some of that initial shape in. What we'll probably end up doing is just putting a thin base layer in. We won't worry about cutting windows or doors or any sort of adornments on that. We want to get that base layer, and then every layer that we add subsequently to that, we have that really smooth surface to work with. And then we're doing plastic card to plastic card as opposed to like plastic card to the foam or another substance to the foam. So we'll figure out a nice way to do that. I almost want to kind of make it, as I said, that stucco paneling, but I also want to sort of incorporate some of the mechanical features. So perhaps some rivets. I've been busy making rivets, and I really like the looks of them. And so perhaps we'll kind of incorporate some panels along the way. So maybe mechanical panels that are sort of cut into the earthy barricades or what have you, retaining wall, if you want to call it that. So we'll get all that tomorrow. And so tomorrow, 5 Central, guys, join me there. If you guys want to check out anything else in terms of what's happened in the Terrain Studio, go check out the Terrain Studio YouTube page. It's just Terrain Studio. You can search it up. You can go ahead and subscribe if you like. There's about 5,000 other people there, and grow that up. That'd be fantastic. That is free, of course. If you want to support the channel or the work that we're doing here, and you can hear from people in the chat or certainly on the Facebook page about the benefits of that, you can go check that out at the Terrain Studio Patreon.com. That's much appreciated. $2, $5, and $15 subs, and it gets you access to everything that is out from the $5 tier and up, past, present, and future. So, all right, I appreciate that, guys. I will catch you. Yeah, no problem, Bernard. Hey, the fact that you're just coming back redundant days, that's fantastic. Every day is reoccurring days is awesome for me. I like to hang out and chat with you guys, so I do appreciate that. Make me some dinner because I'll probably be hungry at the same time. So, all right, guys, I will catch you tomorrow. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.